In addition to a longer video I have out there that kind of goes over minimum wage theory and how it's changed with more recent research, I also wanted to mention the 60% rule. It's actually a 50% rule, but the top line number of this rule is 60%, and here's what it means. If you take geographic regions, which are important to minimum wage, partially because concentration of employers is different in different regions and it's specific to the local economy, if you take the median hourly wage and you're considering a minimum wage policy, if that's what you want to do, you're considering a minimum wage policy, but you want to minimize damage to the labor market, to the workers themselves, so they don't lose their work, but yet still boost their wages to kind of extract more for wages from their employers. The very max you want to do is 60% of the median amount. A lot of the studies say 50% is better, but the real top line number, the highest you really should be going, is 60%. For example, if your area has a median hourly wage of $18 an hour and your minimum wage is currently, let's say, $7.25, that's the national minimum wage at this time. If you want to raise minimum wage but you're not sure how high you should go, it's a very easy calculation. You just take that $18, multiply it by 60%, I'm expressing it as a decimal here, and you come up with 1080. So you really want to consider a minimum wage no higher than $10.80 an hour for this particular, again, it's not for a country, not even for a whole state, but for an economic region. You don't really want to go over 1080 to avoid damage to the labor market. Kind of an interesting anecdote politically related to this. A number of years ago, the Democratic Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia was very powerful because he's kind of like, it was a close margin that the Democrats had control in the Senate, the United States Senate, and they were pushing for a $15 minimum wage. Discussions as of 2023 have kind of gone away about minimum wage since wages have come up so much in the post-pandemic environment. But at the time they were considering a $15 minimum wage. And he was like, nope, I won't do any more than 11. And people were disgusted with him if they're a Democrat, and they were like, oh, good for you, Joe, if they're on the right, and they would prefer to not raise the minimum wage. But if you look at why a senator from West Virginia would say 11, and you look at their median wage being the second lowest in the country, the lowest probably being Mississippi, he's probably trying to protect West Virginia communities from damage from the minimum wage being too high. Because a national minimum wage of $15 an hour at that time would have hurt places like Mississippi and West Virginia, but a lower one, a more moderate $11 an hour, probably would have protected a lot of those West Virginia communities from damage from a national minimum wage being too high. So was he being political? Absolutely. It always is at that point. But was he crazy smart about saying 11? Probably, depending on what the median wage of West Virginia was at the time. It makes a lot of sense.